Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special of Am I the Asshole podcast. I'm joined by my two longtime friends, Nick Pupo and Michael Skarsten, LA dwellers. Nick is a comedian, editor, very talented stand-up who doesn't do stand-up anymore, which is a shame, if you ask me. And Michael is a sketch comedian, extremely talented. Boys, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hey, Danny. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for saying all that stuff about me. It was very nice.
Well, I mean it, Nick. You know, I love your jokes, but you know, I understand stand-up is horrible. So
I love
stand-up,
and I love stand-up comedians, and I respect it. And I just don't think I was ever a good writer. I think I am a good actor. And I think I was always a delivery person, and that's, I think, what I leaned on a lot, and I don't think it's enough.
Brutal self-analysis.
Is that brutal? I don't know if it's brutal.
Yes,
I think it's honest.
You gotta. I don't think so, Nick. First of all, you gotta realize this: you're more talented than you are intelligent. So I think you need to internalize that.
No, I mean, I know that.
You should know that, because I said you were talented earlier, and you're like, "Oh, Danny, I'm not talented. I don't like calling myself talented." I think,
I told you I do think I'm talented. I don't like talking about it because it's uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because it's weird.
Well,
I mean, who wants to listen to somebody be like, "I am very talented.
Well,
I am multi-talented." It sucks.
I also think talent is bullshit. I mean, that's the thing. You know, you learn out here in Los Angeles, and I'm sure out in New York as well. It's like, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You have to you got to work hard. I know people who, when I first moved out here, I was like, they're fucking hacks. And then they're like working on TV shows and stuff. And I don't think they're like particularly funny. But they like,
I hear stories about people working professionally all the time who just talk shit about the people that they work with because they're trash. But they're working on great, shows and stuff.
And they hustle. And like, for the longest time, I was like, I'm funnier than this guy. But now I'm just like, respect to folks who are always on Twitter, who got their joke formats down, who know their meme formats, who know their Twitter joke formats. You kind of do that.
The herd followers.
Sure. Like
the people who just do all the same jokes all the time. Respect.
People who are like, who will be on Twitter and they'll be like, nobody, absolutely nobody, nobody, me. I mean, that's how you go viral.
Yeah. I was just talking with my girlfriend the other night about comedians who all do the same type of jokes. And one of my examples was you reference somebody in your family or a celebrity who is somebody who's doing great things at a young age. And then you compare that to you and what you're doing. So you say, my sister just graduated from New York University, and the other day I ate a toaster strudel off the floor.
Or here, let's workshop this. It'd be more Billie Eilish, won 7 Grammys by the age of 18. Me. Sure. Eating ramen noodles out of a cup at 31. Yep. Boom.
Right.
Viral.
Let me strike back. First of all, I own the fact that I do tweet memes. I use formats.
Of course.
But, in the end, what is a format but a, kind of a structure that is recognizable and intelligible, and it's really about the content and meaning of the joke.
It is.
Right? Like,
you're right. But the problem is that I have no problem with formula and structure. If you can take a joke that is, hey, this person's doing really great in life, however, I, on the other hand, am not doing so great. If you can take that formula and do something new and fun and interesting, then more power to you. But if you look on Twitter, you see just trash repeats of jokes that go viral because it really is. You're tricking the audience. I'm also saying this you're listening to a person bash people on Twitter who is just bad at Twitter. So I openly admit that.
But see, you're not, Nick, and that's what I'm actually going to come for you publicly now, because this like criticism that you're kind of like leveling at others and yourself, it's like so fucking classic, bro, because you're not bad at Twitter. You're not. And I like your tweets and I like your stand-up. So fine, if you don't want to tweet because it is making you mentally sick, which Twitter does do that.
My
fine.
Twitter is gone.
But,
I had 1,300. Now I have 2 followers. It's all gone. Everything's
whatever.
It's all gone.
Whatever. If you want to cut it off, cut it off. But don't sit here and tell me you're not good at Twitter, because I would text you and I always liked your tweets. I think you're very funny. So, don't shit on my friend Nick's tweets, because I like those tweets. So,
I appreciate that, Danny. You've
got a lot of hostility.
Well, yeah, I do, because I Twitter and Instagram may just make me very angry. I don't like the. And I have a lot of friends that are doing this, that are, the TikTok friends. I know you're doing TikTok, and hey, I think that's great if it's your thing. It's not my thing. I despise it. People have recommended that I start a TikTok. I can't do it.
Sure.
I just cannot bring myself to do it. But I don't know why I'm so hostile. Honestly, I think being away from it, I think I forgot how actually hostile that I am towards it.
Well, look, I'm not going to tell you what's what, but I think the fact that you're so self-critical and then you're kind of slamming these little tweeters.
I'm not slamming tweeters.
Those are linked. You are, though, because you're kind of like this format and like hacks, and you're sort of in this work.
I think we're slamming ourselves.
And I think that's okay. I think I think it's okay to be critical of yourself, because I'm 31 now, and I'm like, I like myself a lot more than I did. No, I like myself a lot more than I did when I was 25 or even 28.
Yeah.
I'm growing up, I don't fucking give a shit about a lot more things than it's all different now. But like, I separated myself from social media because I don't even think I'm that person. I don't think I'm that person. I would get angry in a way where I'm like, I don't want to be angry about this stuff. Like, I'd get mad at somebody for saying something on Twitter, and I'm like, I don't need this in my fucking life,
right.
dude.
I never got angry. I mean, I'm on Twitter still, but I've gotten off Facebook. I've never gotten. You would get angry, Nick. There were moments where Nick and I used to be roommates, where I'd come into your room and you'd just be like, "Oh, someone tweeted something." And it's like, and so it's a good. I mean, and Twitter is a fucking nightmare palace. But there's some great tweet folks on there. It's just when you see the math, and I agree that formula. I mean, sketch comedy is just formula. It's all formula.
And stand up is formula. Yeah.
Everything comes back to formulas and structures, And
I just don't like when
medium.
Shit becomes the same thing. And and that's the problem with New York stand up too, is like, LA is it really does breed a different fucking type of stand up, but in New York stand up, there were so many comedians that I loved, but a lot of them were doing the same fucking person. Like, you're doing the same, you just see somebody doing like literally the same hand movements, the same cadence, the same everything. And you're just like, what are we doing here, man? Like, how are you different from the guy that just went before you? Yeah, man, I'm a pretty angry guy. I think I'm
Well, you're not an angry guy, but I just see this like judgmental criticism, this kind of attitude, like it's just not good for you. Like, and like, look, fuck stand up, fuck Twitter, whatever you want to do. But I'm just saying, like, you're asking, I feel like you kind of are asking, like, why am I getting angry? Or Mike asked, why do you get angry? And I'm telling you that's honestly not about the tweets. That's about something in you I think
it's worse when you say that than when I say I just don't like Twitter, because you're telling me, Danny, that I have to now go deep within my psyche and do some serious work, which I don't disagree with, but like I think that I've done a lot of work, and I'm actually at a good place, like I'm on Prozac, which has helped a lot.
No, you're miserable, Nick. You're angry.
Yeah, no, I'm a piece of shit, and I need to really work on
my. I think what you need to do is channel all this energy into a Rage Against the Machine style rap rock group, but the machine you're raging against is New York comedy and Twitter joke formats.
Yeah.
Twitter joke format.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Well, look, but Nick, and listen, I am projecting because I too feel emotions and get angry at other people's success and things of this nature. And
right, little known fact.
The thing is, yeah, you know, but what I always come back to is like that really is just about me. So that does lead me to soul search. And and I'm sorry if that was attacking of you, and I want you to be happy.
I appreciate that. I know it's coming from a good place, you know, but like. That's why I separate myself from this stuff, because I don't want to be unhappy and angry, and I genuinely hate that we live in a world where people feel like they have to be on social media, and that stand-ups feel like they won't have a career if they're not on social media. And I don't think it's true, and I wish that more people would get away from it and try to just make a career happen without fucking doing all that shit, because that's really my goal. Is I just want to make a living, you know, acting and doing comedy without fucking social media. Like you don't
want to be a celebrity.
I don't want to be a celebrity. No, I want to make money. I want to make decent to good money doing this thing that I like to do. And I want people to leave me alone.
Well, I hope you achieve that. I think a lot of people relate with the sentiment. You know, social media is horrible. A lot of the content is bad. That's another thing. It's just like a lot of it is kind of just generic and bad and repetitive and formulaic. So you're like, none of what you're saying is wrong. It's not really that I disagree. It's just that, you know, it's when you take shots at your own content, which I like, where I'm like, well, anyway, we get it. Guys, so let's talk.
No, I appreciate that, Dan. I do want to tell you I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. And you've always been very supportive and about my comedy and stuff. And I spent my entire 20s tearing myself to shreds. But, you know, I'm in a much better place. And I appreciate you telling me that it means a lot. I take it to heart.
Good. Now, Nick, you have done various things to get by, various odd jobs and jobs. You were an Uber driver, a Lyft driver. What happened there? There's a story that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah. So there were a couple of things I was doing at the same time. I was because when you get here, you're trying to make like money doing like whatever. You know, it's like. One of the biggest things I was doing was Lyft, and then there was this other job I was doing where I was calling into radio stations as various characters for like $40 a pop. And so basically these companies would send you scripts. You would check out the script. You would call in at a specific time, and then it would be like basically the premise of every one of these was like I went on a date with a girl, and the girl turned out to be crazy. And then they, you know, little do I know, they've got this girl waiting on the same line. And after I say all this shit about, you know, how crazy this date was, she comes on, and then chaos ensues, right? We just end up screaming at each other, and it's Jerry Springer on the radio, right? It's just really, it's truly awful.
But you're getting paid like $40 for like
$40.
These calls take like 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Not even, man. Sometimes they'll take like 5, and like
wow.
And sometimes you'll get like 3 in a day, and it's actually like if they really like you, they'll send you a ton, and you can get some decent like extra cash. But I remember there was one day where I had like 3 calls to do, and they were in the early morning, and so I like knocked out a couple, and they were super simple. I did them in my car, and then I just literally turned on the app to go drive. And so I just went and started driving Lyft, and I picked up, it was like a weird morning. I picked up this girl who was like, "Can you just deliver this backpack to the West Side?" And I was like, I feel like that's not legal, but I will. And I did it. And that was like an odd thing. And then I was driving, and I saw this guy standing on the side of the road in Beverly Hills, and he was this old man who was clearly like in his mid to late 70s, and he was wearing a suit that was like dirty, a dirty black suit, and he was wearing like a bow tie and like a paisley shirt under the overcoat, and he was just kind of like flailing his arms to get my attention, and I was like, oh, that's my next ride. And I pulled up, and he stumbles. It looks like he's drunk. I don't know what's going on, but he stumbles, and he gets into the front seat of my car, which
the front seat,
for some reason, it's always like the person that you hope doesn't get into your front seat. So he gets in, and immediately there's like this stench, like just this, like it smells like cologne and like stale vomit. Like it's putrid. It's like it stings your nose. Like it was very, very strong. And so I roll down my window, and I'm sticking my head half out the window, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, thank you for picking me up. The last two guys drove right by me and didn't bother picking me up. And I was like, yeah, I mean, in my head, I'm like, yeah, dude, like you look insane. You look very problematic. And I was like, I was like, where are we going? And he was like, oh, I'm going to the Veterans Hospital. So this guy's a vet, and he's like, I go every week for a weekly checkup, and I was like, all right, that's great, So and then I look at the distance, and it's a 45-minute drive that I have to go with this guy,
God.
Which is awful. I mean, he smells really bad, and I was just like, and then one thing he said, which was great, was he goes, "You have any horror stories?" And I was like, no, not yet. I was like, it was the weirdest foreshadowing that just in real life that's ever happened. And so we're driving along, and he's like, after a while, I end up like just kind of liking the guy because he's very friendly, and he's like, he's like, I'm not allowed to drive anymore. My parent or my family paid for me to have an unlimited Lyft subscription, so they would stop me from driving, and I would like to drive, and this guy definitely shouldn't be driving, at all. But he was just very
barely drive.
No, he can barely be a passenger, right? And so we're rolling along, and he's trying to give me all these like different routes, like different directions that he has. And I'm just like, I think I'm just going to stay on the path here, and we're like driving through downtown West Hollywood or whatever. And then I get a phone call, and I look on my caller ID, and I realize that this is another radio call that I have to do. And so I'm like,
no.
Well, this is bad because I really want to stay in good standing with these people at the radio spot because I really like having these little gigs, and I really fucking need the money. And so I turned to the guy, and I was like, hey, man, so I have like a business call that I have to make. Do you mind if I pull over and just take this call real quick? And he was like, why? I was like, well, it's just like, it's for another job, and it's like really important. And he was like, okay. I was like, it won't take any more than 5 minutes. He was like, okay, I think I have 5 minutes. I don't want to be late to the doctor. And I was like, well, I'll make sure it's like really quick. So I pull over into the parking lot of this hotel in West Hollywood. And I get out of my car, and I go into the trunk, and I get my computer, because I have my computer all set up with the fucking script like ready to go. And I pull the script up, and I'm like on the phone with these guys, and they're like, hey, Nick, how's it going? And I'm like, it's going good. And they're like, hey, we're going to call you Steve. Is that all right, Steve? I was like, yeah, whatever. It's great. And they're like, okay, here's how it's going to work. We got the girl. She's going to come on. We're going to talk to her. She's going to say that she's wondering why her date didn't call her back. And then we're going to bring you on and tell the story. She's going to jump in, and then you guys are going to have this fight. And I'm like, okay, so great. Let's go, So I hang on the line, and then they bring on this girl. They start talking to this girl, and she's like, yeah, I thought he was like really sweet and cute. We went out to this restaurant, and I just don't know why he didn't call back. And so I'm just like waiting for all this stuff to happen. I'm like, I'm just like panicking because I'm like, this guy needs to get, to his appointment. It's not, at least I know it's not crucial. He's not like dying, it's like not a serious doctor's appointment, but he just needs to go, and I don't want to be late. And so I'm like waiting for them to go and talk to me, and then as I'm like waiting there, I hear this voice. This guy says, "Excuse me, sir," and I turn around, and there's like this little man who is the parking lot attendant for the hotel. Like, he's like the valet guy, and he's like, "You can't be here, and you can't park there." And I'm like, "I know, but I have to just do this thing." I have to it's very important. Can I just do this? And then he doesn't walk away. He just stands there staring at me while I talk to these people.
Well,
and so
when
then
you say little, like how little is this
he was like probably 5'2". He was very small, and he was like 60. He was just an old small man. And so then I'm talking on the phone, to these people, and they're like, "So Nick, hey, tell us about this date." And I'm like, "Yeah, so I went out with this girl, and she was like, she said that it was her birthday, and then she gave the ID to the waiter, and the waiter looked at the ID and said that it wasn't hers, and it was this really awkward, weird moment, and she made this big scene, and then I hear a car horn. And I turn and I realize that the old man is now honking my horn of my car to get me back in, and he's screaming, "I need to go!" And so I'm like, well, like, this is a fucking nightmare, dude. And so then the parking lot attendant is like, "Sir, you have to leave. You cannot park in this spot." And I'm like, "Look, man, I need to do this phone call. It's very important." And then the guy, the DJ is like, "Hey, Nick, everything okay over there?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm just like at my office. You guys caught me at a weird time, and I'm just very busy." And I was like, anyways, so me and this girl, we go home, and we have sex, and and then and they're like, "Oh, you still went home with her, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm crazy, dude, And then I was like, but then the next morning I woke up, and her friend comes in and says, "Hey, where's my ID?" And so it turns out she stole her roommate's ID, and they're like, "Whoa, that's crazy." And then I hear the honk of the horn again, and the guy is like, "We have to go now." And then the little valet guy was like, "Sir, I need you to leave right now." And I turned to him and I was like, "Hey, man, you got to leave me alone, because I have to do this. I'm going to be gone in like 5 minutes. And then he just walks away. And then they're like, "Nick, or they're like, "Steve, are you good over there, man? Is everything all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm outside, and it's really loud and stuff." And then the girl,
they told them you're outside, but
it's in the office. Yeah. Office. And then the guy, and then the DJ's, finally the girl comes on, right? So the girl comes on now, and she's like, "Hey, what the F, And I'm like, "Hey, whoa, who is this? And is this Marissa?" And she's like, "Yeah, I didn't do that shit." I'm like, "Yeah, you did. You're crazy. Why did you steal your friend's ID and lie about your birthday and all that shit?" And then I'm getting a honk from the guy again. He's like, "Yeah, this is ridiculous." And then I was like, and then they're like, "Hey, Nick, man," or they're like, "Hey, Steve, you gotta get." And I'm like, "Hey, you know what, guys? I have to go. Marissa, you're crazy. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Goodbye." And they're like, "Wait, hang on." And then I hung up, and
oh no,
I go and I get back into the car, and the guy's like, "This is preposterous." I remember he used that word because it's like such an old guy word. And he was like, I'm getting out of the car. I was like, "Look, man, like, I'm really sorry about that, but like, I need you to like just I can take care of this, man. Like, I can take you to the hospital. Like, you're okay. We're going now. It's going to be 40 minutes. And he was like, no. And he got out and he was like, this is the worst Lyft ride I've ever had. And I was like, all right, man. At that point I was just like, whatever, like, fuck it. And I just like left. And I was like, I'm sorry. And then I turned on, like, I ended the ride and I'm like driving away, and he was like, he called me again and he was like, end the ride. And I was like, I did, man. I just ended it. Like, it's over. And he was like, I said end the ride. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. And so I just hung up the phone. I just hung up on him. And then I picked up another customer and he was like, hey, man, how's your day going? And I just told the guy the whole story.
Oh my God.
And he was like cracking up and he felt really bad. But I think this story is actually relevant, you know, for this podcast, because it's one of those things where, like, the whole time, or the after, an hour later, after I was like thinking about the story and like telling people about it, I was like thinking that this guy was like nuts, but like there was really nothing other than the fact that he was dirty and smelled. He was perfectly normal, and I was the asshole in this situation, you know? Like, I fucked up. Like, I should not have taken the call. I should have just taken this guy to his fucking doctor's appointment. And instead I made this whole scene. I just don't know how I get myself involved in shit like this, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the story has a lot of moral ambiguity, but you're likable. You are the reason I think it's such a good story is because I'm on your team, you know, because I'm like, you know, you're working as a Lyft driver, and then it's like you need this extra 40. And the fact that it's $40 is also like instrumental, because it's like just enough money to not matter, but you get it.
Yeah,
it's like, well, $40 is not nothing.
Well, it's not just $40. It's also if I don't take this call,
of course,
I potentially lose all of the jobs that they offer me.
Right, you burn the bridge.
What happened with that job after, like, because you had to ditch out early?
I don't think I never did another call with them. I think that was the last one I ever did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
But you were okay as far as Lyft.
I was okay. Lyft is fucking whatever, dude. I think he gave me a 1 star, and, you know, I don't know. That job was fine, you know, but I think, I don't think I ever did another one of those phone calls. But I you know, even like I gave them a lot. Like I was like, even though it was like I was in the middle of all this shit and there was noise, I still like gave them the story. I improvised and I did the job, you know, and I just happened to end the call a little sooner than I think they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's anybody will take it because it's great money and it's just like 10 minutes. But it's a hilarious story. It's a story that needs a short film or some adaptation. I love it. I think it's hilarious. Thanks for sharing that. All right, guys. Well, we got one heck of a juicy app for you today. Our second story of the day: AITA for making my husband take over for a day so I can play video games. But first, it's AITA for not paying for my former drug addict brother's dog's surgery. Former drug addict brother's dog's surgery leading to its death because I believed he, my former drug addict brother, was trying to scam me again. Wow, that title.
Brutal.
My 27F brother, 32M, has struggled with addiction for a long portion of his life. It started when I was in middle school and he would steal my parents' money, sell their shit, and stole medication from some of our relatives. My parents would tell me to never trust him, and nearly everything valuable in our home was kept under lock and key. My parents were always trying to get him help, and after an intervention, they had a massive fight, and he just left when I was in 10th grade. When I was a college sophomore, he reached back out to me, and we started having a really tentative relationship. He promised me he was getting better, that he was seeking help. He told me that he did rehab, but he couldn't afford it anymore, and our parents weren't returning his calls. He even showed me an admittance form or some other type of official-looking medical doc that proved he was in rehab. He asked me to loan him $3,000 for rehab because he needed to pay tomorrow or they'd kick him out. I'd been working my ass off, and that money was meant to pay for this semester's tuition fee. He ghosted me afterwards, obviously. It was a scam for drug money. You probably think I'm stupid for believing him, but I really wanted to believe him. I was just an ignorant college kid back then who really, really wanted her brother back. After that incident, I learned to never trust him again, like my parents originally warned me. Last year, he reached out to my parents and I again. We haven't met in person because of COVID, but we've had a couple Zooms and texts. It's just a really tentative, barely there relationship. I think my parents are just scared of getting hurt again. He promised us he was actually clean this time and wanted to stay with us for an extended period to prove it. He hasn't asked us for any money or anything, so I was beginning to believe he was actually clean. Then he asked me for $3,000 for a surgery for his dog. He sent me the vet documents as well. Honestly, I was so upset. My first reaction was that this was obviously a scam and he hadn't changed at all. He had talked about his dog and shown us pictures, but I thought that he had just forged the vet documents. I didn't respond, even though he was begging me. I had the money, and I paid for the vet fees for my aunt's cat before. I love animals. If I believed him, I probably would have paid. But I didn't, and his dog died. My brother called me a dog killer and even sent me pictures of his dog's corpse.
Oh, God.
So now I obviously know it wasn't a scam. He told me that with family like me, who needed enemies? And that's it, because my parents and I never trust him, don't support him, that his life turned to shit, and now his best friend was dead because of me. Obviously, I feel incredibly guilty, but am I the asshole?
Oof. That is so sad.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's a super sad story. There is something, and heroin and addiction. You said he's addicted to heroin, all right, or he's a recovering heroin addict. But there's something funny about with family like this, who needs enemies is such 14-year-old
Right.
I think that's a pretty good line. I've never heard that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're being sarcastic, right?
Me?
You've never heard with X
No, I've never heard
this?
that. Nope.
The Twitter format antagonist has never heard with X like this, who needs enemies.
Is that a Twitter thing?
It's an everything thing. That's a cliche.
No, it's not. It's totally not.
Oh my God. I'm going to Google it.
Maybe I haven't.
Google it.
Is this what you want to roast me for? Is this your thing? You want to try and make me feel stupid for not knowing a thing?
No, I don't want you to.
I want to hear the listeners in the comments.
Let me tell you how bad, Nick. I don't want to make you feel stupid. That's not my intent.
Oh, you can't make me feel stupid, man. I'd have to.
To give you an idea, if you simply Google "who needs enemies" in quotes, 272,000 results. Okay.
Let me do that. Who needs?
With friends like you, who needs enemies is a cliche.
Oh, maybe I've heard it. Maybe I've heard the friends like you, who needs enemies. Maybe that just rang differently for me with the with family like you.
Just switched it out. With family, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. No, and yeah, I've definitely heard that before, and we can move on. So here's what I'm going to focus on, because I've dealt with a lot of this stuff. I've been addicted to a lot of things myself. I have had a lot of friends who are addicted to things. These things are really complicated because people do really fucked up things to get money when they're addicted to drugs. It just happens. And it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they are extremely addicted to a drug. And I had a friend one time who stole 90 days worth of Vicodin from his from our other friend's sick aunt, and it was this big deal that he never admitted, and he never admitted that he did it, but we all knew that he did it. And we sat with him at a table and we were like, look, man, we're giving you an out right now. If you admit that you took these pills, then we'll let it go and we'll deal with it. But we need you to admit it. And he refused to admit it. And it really sucked. And so that kind of thing, when people are really, really into deep into this addiction, it's hard to forgive and forget. It's hard to really believe that they've changed, because they're constantly saying that they're changing.
Right.
And so this is a situation, turned up to 11, really, when you're involving a dog who needs surgery. And, this is like the very tragic, like, boy who cried wolf story. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just like, it's such a complicated situation, man, because like a guy who's asked you for so much money and fucked you over so many times and, made all these mistakes, it's hard to be like, you need $3,000 for your dog's surgery. That's insane.
I don't know. There's no like, it's not fair for the heroin addict brother to like be pinning all the. I mean, even if like, fuck, what if your brother didn't have $3,000 to like help save your dog? I mean, it's tragic and that sucks and that's awful, but he's certainly not a dog killer for not giving him the money. And I'm a recovering alcoholic. And like, to talk about, like, I stole my grandma's Vicodin when I was, an addict. And then Danny, I stole pills from from a mutual friend of ours. And like, like one night when I was drunk, I took a bunch of his like Oxycontin out of his, which is also stupid. Don't mix opiates and alcohol. And he like called me out like a year later and was like, we can bleep his name, but yeah, Vicodin.
Oh shit, I know.
At a party.
Oh man.
And he like called me out. It was like one of the worst moments of my life, is just being like, I mean, it's kind of funny in retrospect, but he's just like, I was saving those for like a rainy day. Like, what if I wanted to get high on painkillers, Michael? And he's like, and you took that. And you didn't ask. And I was like,
wasn't like, I have back pain all the time. It was like I wanted to get fucked up on my own time.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, it sucks. But like, yeah, you like, as an addict, it's like your response. Like, I don't know, just because you get sober, it's your responsibility to like kind of have to deal with like all the bullshit that you did when you were, and forgive yourself, but understand that like other people may not forgive you, or other people may not forget about like the shitty things you did when you're an addict, and you have to be okay with that, or else you'll go back to fucking using. And so I don't know. I mean, and it's like, bro, I already gave you $3,000 and you spent it on fucking junk. So it's like,
yeah, man,
it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think that's one of the complexities of addiction, in terms of like, oh, well, is it a disease? Do you feel bad for this person? It's a tough thing, because on the one hand you're like, they got a disease. But on the other hand, you're like, yeah, you were an asshole. Like, you stole my drugs, or you whatever, you did this or that, and like, I can honestly, how I want to attack the brother is not to go into his like drug addiction stuff, but like the way he treats his sister ultimately is where I can be like, this is an asshole manipulative move. Obviously he's blinded by his addiction, but to call her a dog killer and send her pictures of the corpse is like ridiculous, and then she says, so now I obviously know it wasn't a scam. I don't know, do you? How do you know? How do you know the dog wasn't already dead? You know what I mean? Like, there's no trust.
Yeah.
Darcy Nitz writes, it's not uncommon for drug addicts to hurt their pets in order to get drugs, and there are rescues that will help people pay for vet care that they can't afford. Yeah, like, the other aspect of this, too, is, can I just say, $3,000 on fixing a dog? Like, get a new dog. I mean, if you really love this thing, but it's like a ton of money. Like, spend...
Well, I will say this, yeah, and that's like, you phrase it in a way that's like harsh but funny, right? But the reality is that, if your dog is so sick that you have to spend $3,000 to get a surgery, a lot of times the dog is really sick. A lot of times,
right,
that you get this surgery. Like, for my dog, we had to put my dog down when it was like 13 or so years old, and he was a small Schnauzer poodle mix, and he was just riddled with cancer, and they said that it was going to cost us like $3,000 or more to get the surgery, and then they were like, but this can also come back. This can also, for sure, like, it's a very good chance that he could get it again. And it was like he was in so much pain that we decided to put him down. And it was really fucking hard and sad. But like,
right.
Sometimes, sometimes it's the right decision. And now, did he have it put down?
I don't know.
Or did it just die?
We don't know. Yeah, we have no idea. All we know is that he sent the corpse. And I'm not saying you're an asshole if you spend $3,000. I think you're right. I think it's a calculation, but it is. I mean, look, my parents did that exact thing where it's like our pug was sick and then they spent like $3,000, and it's a pug. It's like a shitty breed. Like they last like 8 years because they're just so horrible genetically. And the pug
like that, the language you use is they last 8 years.
Yeah, right. Like batteries.
It's not they live 8 years. It's there. Right. Just stick around for.
There was a specificity to it because, yes, dogs obviously, quote unquote last, but a dog is supposed to live like 15 years or 13 years at least. But pugs and other toy breeds are so genetically fucked up because they're so inbred. That's more what I'm talking about, is that a pug is a product, to quote The Onion. Breeders recall 2018 pugs for breathing problems,
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, those things are cute, but they're fucked up.
This dog stopped being able. There's nothing wrong with the dog's legs, and it just had neurological issues, and it couldn't use its legs. And it's like that's genes, man. The dog is last is kind of the right word. It's just it just gives out because it's not coded right.
Right. Yeah. The computer in the car is broken.
The pug brain is like 55 cells. Go.
Right.
So, look, I think we're honestly all pretty aligned here because no one can blame OP. Like, he's an addict. He's manipulated her. She's like, look, I'm not going to give you the money. The dog happened to die, whether he was telling the truth or not. It's like, how could she possibly know?
I have lied to, when I was a drug addict, like when I was an active drug addict, I lied to my best friends. I bold-faced, no shame, lied about that I was not on drugs, that I hadn't stolen something, that and it's just, it takes over. And I think that this girl knew that, and had seen just example after example of just how fucking deep in it he is. And I don't know if I would have done it either, man. I don't know.
I wouldn't give my completely sober, clean brother $3,000 for his dog. I don't got $3,000.
That's another fair point. It's a lot to spend. Fine if it's your dog and you want to freaking blow that much cash, but I don't think your siblings have to finance your dog
that is
surgery.
Another. I mean, that is a big thing for sure. Is that he should at least be able to be like, hey, I have $1,500 and I just need the other half, or I have, whatever. It just, I don't know, presenting it in a way where it's like, hey, I need literally $500 more. I'll send you the receipt. You can come with me.
Well, and the other reason I think it's bullshit is because what did he need last time? $3,000. What does he need this time? $3,000. It's clearly that's some unit of drugs. That's a pound or whatever.
I don't know.
He's not even hiding it.
My drug dealer will only sell me heroin in $3,000.
I think it's I think it just. My thing would be that it sounds like he got $3,000 once, and he was like, "This is a good amount of money that will last me a good amount of time.
This is the perfect amount of heroin. This this will last me about 3 weeks, but I'll be really high for 3 weeks. Right. It'll be awesome."
AITA for not paying for my former drug addict brother's dog's surgery, leading to its death because I believed he was trying to scam me again. I think we agree, not the asshole, and he is.
Yeah, you know who the real asshole is?
The dog.
Who's that, Mike?
Pfizer. Quit it now.
AITA for making my husband take over for a day so I can play video games. I am a mom of 4. I know that's a lot of kids, but it felt like a commercial right there. But I wouldn't change it. The kids are 10M, 9F, 6M, and 2M. Jesus, what a fucking spread right there. She's got
some weird names.
Yeah, that's some weird names.
I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom while my husband works Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. His Saturdays are pretty relaxed. He hangs out with the kids and goes out with the boys that night.
The boys. Love it.
Sunday's church and a family dinner. My weeks are the opposite. I don't relax. I'm 100% overwhelmed and 150% stressed to the max. Oh boy, now OP gives her whole schedule. 5:30, wake up, shower, coffee, in silence. Okay. 6:30, set out clothes, wake up house. 7:30, cook, 10 to 2-year-old. 8 o'clock, eat, make husband's lunch. 8:30, get kids logged on and set up for school. 9:11, okay, we get it. I don't think we need to go through this whole list. Suffice to say, every hour of her day is filled with activities.
I do like that you stopped at 9:11.
Right.
That is emotionally what I felt about the list. It's just a big old 911. This finally came to a head this last Friday when my husband got upset with me for complaining that I was tired. I asked him what he did every day that he's too tired to help out, and maybe that's why I'm exhausted. I do everything. I haven't had a break since my 2-year-old was born. He told me I didn't need a break, that it's easy to do my job. I ended up screaming.
This guy's fucking bold, man.
I ended up screaming that the next day he is tending to the house and the kids, that I was locking myself in a room and playing video games all next day. True to my word, I refused to unlock the door Saturday or do anything. My mother-in-law called me pissed that I could do that to my family, that I was the asshole for ignoring my family to play games. I told her that maybe if she raised her son better, it wouldn't have came to this. My husband is angry, my mother-in-law is angry, and I feel like the asshole. Am I the asshole?
Wow. Let's first address the mother-in-law called her piss.
Pissed. No. Called her pissed.
Oh, I thought the mother. You piss. You're
nothing but piss. No better than a puddle of piss.
Okay, well, the husband saying, like, your job is easy is a totally not the right thing to say. And, you know.
It's also really hilarious. It's, like, hilarious how just, like, unfair and mean it is.
Right.
Well, yeah, because it's callous and it's wrong. Go ahead.
The idea that this woman is able to write out her schedule. I know you called it the 9/11 of schedules, but it's like it is like the fact that she can do that. You're like, oh, she like works her fucking ass off, like for sure. And this guy is kind of like, you hear this story all the time. You hear the story about of the woman who, you know, breaks her back for the kids, and the guy who's like, what? You know, like This is just like a classic story. You know, and then, yeah, the idea of him just being like, your job's easy is just, you know, is crazy and fucked up.
That's honestly it. It's just like, you know, you got no right to call it easy. That's not fair. It's like, that's her role in the house. It's the role you agreed on. You know, she's got 4 kids. Who's calling this easy except someone who's being an asshole? Honestly, like, it's so obtuse. 4 kids, too. They're all motherfucker ages. Like,
a shitload of kids.
And the other thing to say is, even if her job is easy, you know, even if like her job was just like making Ritz cracker sandwiches all day or something, everyone needs a break from their job. Everyone needs a day off from what the shit that their monotony and their stuff. So it doesn't, you know, even if like it's like this whole, it's very American like thing where we're constantly talking about comparing how hard one person works to another. It's like, I work 12 hours at a gas station every single day, and then another guy's like, well, I work 40 hours a week at a business place, and it's like, that's more hard for my brain. And it's like, well, no, we're all just victims of capitalism. And she needs a break, and I think it's very, I don't know, it's like patriarchal bullshit.
It's patriarchal bullshit. So here's where I'm at. Look, I'm all about fuck the patriarchy, right? Like, women first, believe all women. But I think when she says this paragraph here, where she says, this finally came to a head last Friday when my husband got upset with me for complaining that I was tired. I asked him what he did every day that he's too tired, and that's maybe why I'm exhausted, that I do everything, whatever. So it's like, this sentence to me is so strange because she says, so this is how I'm thinking of this playing out, right? She's like, I'm tired. And the husband goes, what the fuck? Right? So that's to me is a weird, it's just a vague statement, right? It's a vague, and then she says, I asked him what he did every day that he's too tired. And then there's we don't know what he does. So I'm just like, you know, clearly this woman is overworked. Clearly this woman needs a break. She needs for somebody to just take over for her so that she can go fuck off and play video games. I'm all for that. I just want more information. I just want more information about, like, who is this man? How did that fight go, really? Like, right. Was it that she was like, oh, honey, I'm tired. And he's like, I don't fucking care. Fuck you. Or was it like, honey, I'm tired. And he's like, oh, how are you tired? And she's like, well, I do all this stuff. And then he's like, whoa, don't get angry at me. It could be that. It could be that he's a true fucking, like, aggressive asshole. It could be that they're just married and they had a big fight and that's just fucking how it goes.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something, because I think there is a propensity among a lot of people who aren't assertive to wait to assert themselves, to make a statement like, hey, I just, I do need some time in my day. I feel like I'm doing the majority of the chores, and have a nice level-headed conversation. But instead, they wait till they're fucking fuming raged. And I think you're right. I think this could have been very much like the way that you just played it out. She actually took the initial shot at him being like, what do you do every day that you're so tired? And then he's
that's
like,
how it's
whoa.
written, right? That's how it's written. And it's, but you also, like, I want to, like, come from a place where it's, these things are tough. When you start talking about fights, you start, like, writing out fights. You're hearing one person's perspective, and it's never fair, because it's like at a therapy. It's like if you go to, like, a marriage counselor, which I've never done, but I imagine that if you're in a marriage counseling session and you're with your husband, and then the therapist says, okay, wife, you tell me your side of the story. And then she tells her side of the story. And then the husband says, can I tell mine? And they go, no. And so there's just, like, this one side. So you need both sides for this stuff to kind of, like, be able to properly break it down. The bare bones of this is that she needs a break. She needs somebody to help out. And maybe she played it in a way that was kind of fucked up, where she's like, I don't give a shit if you're not going to help me. I'm going to lock myself in here. Good luck. And then.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think she probably I think it's just a matter of communication. Getting defensive and saying, what do you do all day, isn't really, like, it doesn't matter what he does all day. And I'm not saying she's in the wrong here, but, like, it doesn't matter. The truth is, he could be fucking off all day and doing nothing. It's more like what your needs are. You need to address how I feel about this situation.
Well, it's not even what do you do, but it's what don't you do? Because I'm doing all this shit for the family, and I need you to help do that.
Right. Well, okay, like, I can kind of go with you and be like, all right, well, maybe she snapped at him, but, like, she didn't take a shot at him, even if she did kind of verbally snap. And you are ultimately right, Nick, to really do this. But, like, just with the info we have, let me say that he did take a shot at her. He accused her of having an easy job when she's explicitly saying it's not easy. So that was fucking rude. Also, like, come on, reciprocity shouldn't have to be something that's, like, super spelled out in a marriage. Like, they've got 4 kids. It's a pandemic. Like, this guy has his head in his ass, to not notice the disparity, to not notice that she's tired. And, like, yeah, it is partly on her to not express and solve the problem before it becomes a nuclear incident. But, like, there's no way that I'm really, like, placing this on equal shoulders here just because potentially she snapped at him.
Right. No,
I agree. I mean, it's again, man, it's just, this is a classic dynamic, of male-female marriage where the dude goes out and works. The mom stays at home and takes care of the kids. The dad is not as attentive. He comes home at, 5 or later, and he's tired from whatever the fuck he does. And then the mom is like, hey, I fucking have to work too. And then he's like, I have a job. You're not employed. You know what I mean? It's just a classic, like.
Can we assign a career to him just to help the audience? He's like
coal miner.
Roller coaster maintenance. Coal miner's good.
Yeah.
See,
coal miner's good.
Yeah, I mean,
roller
like,
coaster maintenance.
That's the thing, is, like, realistically though, he probably, like, I guess you're right, he could have a brutal job. I don't know. He doesn't seem to invoke that.
No, I think yeah, go ahead.
If he had a backbreaking job.
Sales.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I pictured it as white collar, but I mean, that's just, we're projecting our own bias there. But, like, look, all things considered, I thought, Mike, I think you nailed this. Like, every job, easy or not. And what is easy, by the way? Because fucking all jobs take time, right? Like, Well, what does it mean for a job to be easy? Like, if you're flipping burgers, right? Like, sucks. Like, it's hot and it's greasy.
Sure.
You know? Oh, well, being a babysitter's easy. You're just sitting there with kids. Yeah, well, you do it then. Like, no, I don't want to. I don't fucking want to do that. Like, what does easy really mean? It's kind of like
yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
What job is easy?
I think here's the thing is it really is a matter of like, I really am not a huge fan of kids. You know, I want to have kids at some point, but like most kids, I'm just like
dad already.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. But I think like I usually just I'm not like great with like I would never want to be a babysitter. So I think like you have to remember that like although it's not technically a job for the mom, if somebody was like, hey, give this 9/11 schedule to a person and then how much would you pay that person to do that job every day? And you'd be like probably like $50 an hour because that sounds like shit. That sounds like hell.
I knew like a 9-to-5 nanny and it was 6 figures. Like that, it's crazy expensive to pay someone to do this. Like it's not technically a job in the sense of like, you know, she doesn't have a fucking W-2, but like it is a job. I mean, it's a full-time job. And like, that's the other thing with this whole mentality of some jobs are easy. It's like, I guess being a server is non-technical. I think it's incredibly difficult, exhausting physically exhausting, emotionally exhausting. Like there really is I think there's no such thing as an easy job. And they're like, oh, like an assembly line worker. Okay, well, that's monotonous. You know, like
the easiest job I ever had was working at a hookah lounge. All I had to do was sit up at the front desk and take people's money when they came in, and then I would bring people hookahs filled with hookah shit, and then I would literally just hang out on the couch and smoke hookah with my other fucking loser employees, coworkers.
Okay, so there's one easy job. All right, okay.
Oh my God, Nick, that is...
It was amazing.
Hilarious.
Yeah. I hate hookah now, by the way.
You would smoke
I was 18 years
day?
old. I was 18 years old. Yeah. I mean, you would just sit on the couch and your coworkers would be there even if they weren't working. So you'd have like six of your coworkers and you'd just all be hanging out and you're like, you're fucking at your job. Like how weird is this? That like, you would never want to go to your job, but this was a place where like they would just go to hang out.
Okay, if it's a job that you'll do for free, then yes, it may be an easy job. I can back off the claim that there's no easy jobs. But let me say this. Jobs can be subtly difficult even if people think they're easy, even if they're low paid or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, just having to go to work is hard.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's true, yeah.
All right, I think we agree on this one. AITA for making my husband take over for a day so I can play video games. Maybe not the best way to handle it, but ultimately he kind of like gaslit her and was like, oh, you're not completely easy. So I think we agree, not the asshole, and he is.
Yes, not the asshole.
Thanks so much for coming on the show, guys. It's been great to talk to you. I'm really looking forward to LA life. And, tell these people, I guess, Nick, you're not on social media, so this is the end of the listeners.
I'm technically on social media, and I check my Instagram. I've been checking it a little bit more recently, maybe like a week, once or twice a week. Sure. So you can follow me on there. I mean, if you want to follow my Twitter, I think I have one tweet. And I have 2 followers.
I think I'm one of them.
You are one of them, and so is Patrick Hasty. So you can follow me. I restarted my Twitter and I kept the handle just so I can have it. So that's
Nick Pupo, NickPupo. He has one tweet right now. The mental preparation it takes to walk by one person in an otherwise empty hallway. That's a great tweet. That's so funny.
I like that tweet. Yeah, I like that tweet.
You're like the Fiona Apple of tweets. Like you just send one out every once in a while, but it's always a banger.
That's not true at all, man. But I appreciate you guys are so kind.
How about you, Skarsten? What's your shit?
Sure. You can follow me on Venmo at Michael-Skarsten. Don't send me any money, but there's a lot of transactions that go back and forth. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm also on the other stuff at Pizza Skarsten, but really the Venmo feed is where all my best stuff goes up, like rent and food and stuff like that. So check that out.
Pizza, Pizzaskarsten. Pizza.
Yep, that's right.
10. Follow my boys, and you guys, thanks for coming on the program, and I'll see you soon. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.